Hello everybody, and welcome to today's video. Before we begin, go subscribe if you are new. These are my playoff predictions, and if you don't subscribe, I'm gonna get a toothpick and I'm gonna take your teeth out. So unless you want to be a toothless guy or a person, I suggest you go subscribe. Now, let's start with the NFC, which is where my team is at. But I'm gonna start off with the Saints. I feel like the Saints have a high-powered offense to make the playoffs. I feel like their defense is pretty solid. I see no errors. I believe that they're probably will get the first seed, and I stand by my point. The only question is Drew Brees aging enough to play? That's the only question. For the second seed, I have the 49ers. I feel like, with their run game and their defense, I have a feeling it might carry them to a second seed. So they could get the first round bye if they wanted to, but I personally don't see that. Because this is where I'm going to get a lot of hate for, because I picked the Bears when people say people would have chosen the Packers to be the third seed, maybe the fourth. Depends how you want to rate the Cowboys and how you want them to do this year. The Bears have a top 5 defense at best. They went 8-8 in a bad season. That being said, let's look at the offense with Mitch Trubisky. He had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. Number 2, there was no wide receivers other than Aaron. His wide receivers led the league in drops. Led the league in drop passes. And the tight end group, which Trey Burton, number 1, was injured. And number 2, Adam Sheen was benched after the Eagles game. And I guarantee you, nobody knew who J.P. Holtz or Jesper Horsted were until they started. I didn't even know who Ben Brodiker was until he got hurt. But I feel like this team has the potential the defense to carry them to the playoffs. I just feel like this team last season went 8-8. Mitch Trubisky went 8-8 in a bad year. He has a 20-12 record under head coach Matt Nagy, and people are considering him a bust. When it's not even. I do agree. Some of last season is his fault, but if you look at it from a perspective, he had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. Wide receivers that dropped in passes. His play caller was awful. His play caller didn't even use them out of the pocket until the Cowboys game. That being said, they added Robert Quinn. They added more tight end group. They added more tight end core. I know what you're going to say. They have 10 tight ends, but now they have 7, and that's a pretty good number riding into training camp, and I feel like most of the tight ends will be cut or traded. But as far as Green Bay's situation goes, me not having them in the postseason, I have a feeling that Aaron is going to be an asshole so he can get traded. Hell, we saw him tank the 2018 season just to get Mike McCarthy fired. And I'm already going to be like, oh, he's a hater. He's just biased. Man, shut up. I have a feeling your front office told you that message to stop. To stop believing in Aaron Rodgers. That Aaron will be traded. Aaron's not going to be the quarterback. I want everybody to know that they made sure that they got Jordan Love. He never fell to them. So I know I'm going to get hate, but if you want your BS list, go make your own playoff list if you think mine is shit. And try to explain it. Tell me how the Packers will make it. Please tell me. Do they have the defense? No. Their run defense got trash. Did they fix their wide receiver core? No. No, they didn't. They only picked up Funches, which he opted out. They didn't even replace him. So my only thing is, explain why the Packers will make the playoffs in the comments. Please tell me. And why the Bears won't. Because obviously you can't pick the Vikings if it's not the Packers. Because here's the thing about the Vikings. They have Adam Thielen as a slot receiver. I don't think Adam Thielen's a #1 wide receiver. Not saying he's trash, not saying he's horrible, but at the end of the day, this team might have the potential to make the playoffs next year. But they're not going to go off. It doesn't. The wide receiver hasn't taken a snap, and Justin Jefferson might be boom or bust. He could be a bust wide receiver, or he could be a stud. Either way, I don't see the Vikings making the playoffs this year. They might do it next year. Obviously, you can't pick the Lions because they're planning on moving on Stafford. But let's move on to Dallas. I feel like this Cowboys team got updated this offseason, even though losing, Robert Quinn and all the key parts. I feel like they added more talent in that draft. I feel like this is probably Dak's last season to prove that he's worth that much money. If not, then Andy Dalton can see what he can do. So let me get to the Giants in a minute. The Bucs, I see them going because I believe they have the offense to do it. I'm not a believer in the defense. So, and the Seahawks, let's be for real. The Seahawks, I don't see them being a divisional winners. They had a chance. They had a 1 yard short. They were 1 yard short of possibly becoming the second seed and having the first round bye and division winners. But Pete Carroll called it a delay game. Blame it on the call. Blame it on the missed call. All you want. But at the end of the day, folks, they had a chance at the 1 yard line. That would have never happened. Never would have happened if you just ran the ball in the end zone. So I have them as a 60, and I think that's a reasonable expectation. Now, going back to the Giants, which I believe I'm going to get some Eagles fans by saying, oh, if you're going to put the Cowboys ahead of us, at least put us as like a 6 or something. Like, come on. I'm not a big believer in Carson Wentz. I believe he's injury prone. I believe that they drafted Jalen Hurts for a reason. They drafted Jalen Hurts because they couldn't trust Carson Wentz. They didn't pick up a wide receiver. Like, his wide receiver core is only Deshaun Jackson, like old Deshaun Jackson. Alshon Jeffrey's getting old, and they're only possible with Zach Ertz. I believe Wentz is overrated, and I believe that they'll be third. As far as the Giants go, people forget that the Giants, let's just say, had a little bit, they added more debt into that whole line in that draft. And I believe it's a reasonable expectation to see them making the postseason. They'll still lose in the first round, but I still see the Giants possibly being the 7th seed in this case scenario. I believe Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. I believe he's talented enough to bring the Giants into the playoffs, and I believe he'll win a Super Bowl with the Giants in the future. He'll be one of the greatest quarterbacks in 12 years. The dude will be a stud. Now, let's get to the AFC. Ravens, I'm a high believer on Lamar. And I said don't sleep on Lamar, and I thought they were not going to be this good of a team last year. So I have them as a first round bye. There's a possible chance that they could have an undefeated season. Now, let's go to the Chiefs, because I'm going to give, why didn't you give the Chiefs a first round bye? Oh, I'm just going to put it this way. The Chiefs had kind of an easy road to the Super Bowl. Because let me put it this way. They faced the Texans, which they blew a 24-point in a quarter. And then they faced the Titans, which the Titans did not let's be for real. The Titans only rely on Derrick Henry. And the Chiefs didn't only woke up before halftime. And they blew them out. And they faced a 49ers team, which the defense, I'm going to say this. The 49ers defense can be torched by the right quarterback. Patrick Mahomes was the right quarterback to do it. And he made an amazing comeback, in my opinion. Now, I think that's a reasonable expectation to put them as a 2nd seed. Now, let's go to the Patriots. The Patriots added Cam Newton to the roster. Normally, you would say I have the Dolphins or the Bills, but I have a feeling with Cam Newton being in the mix, he has a very good coach. He has a very good players that he can make good. I have a feeling Bill Belichick is gonna use him a lot in the system. I have a feeling that he has the more weapons that he had last year than Carolina, and that's enough for the division win. I mean, we've seen the Patriots do well even without Tom Brady. Tom Brady was out in the ACL and they went 11-5. Tom Brady was suspended for the first like 4 games, I believe, and they went 3-1. Now, because that's a reasonable expectation. Because the Patriots, don't underestimate Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick might be the greatest head coach of all time, if not. Now, going back to my fourth seed, which is the Titans. Understand something? The Titans are division contenders at this point, because obviously I have the Colts, which I will get into for a minute. Why don't I have the Texans? Because the Texans really didn't have any. Well, they replaced DeAndre Hopkins with Brando Cobb and Brandon Cooks, which I don't think it's worthy. They're not worthy enough, and they don't have any high-powered offense. Now, I have the Titans as a divisional round. I can't, like I said, I can't predict anything in the AFC South. That division is so trash. But I have a feeling that the Titans will at least win 10 games at the minimum. Now the fifth seed going to the Buffalo Bills. Now, I'm not a high believer on Josh Allen. I believe his defense will carry him to at least like 11 wins at the bare minimum. 11 wins. They'll be behind the Pats. I'm not a believer in Josh Allen. Josh Allen can't throw. Josh Allen can't do this. Josh Allen can't do that. Yada yada yada. His defense will alone. Josh Allen. I'm gonna say this to Bills fans. The only thing that will stop the Bills will make the playoffs is probably going to be Josh Allen, and I guarantee it. Josh Allen could be the reason. Now, how many games that they will win is by their defense. But they're going to get swept by the Patriots. They might split with the Dolphins. They'll sweep the Bills will at least sweep the Jets because, well, they'll at least draft a safety in next year's draft. Now, getting to the Colts, people are forgetting that Philip Rivers on the Chargers was probably his worst season. Was probably like he was the good soldier on the Chargers, and they didn't. Well, the Chargers really didn't give him anything. They didn't give him a good offensive. Like, here's the thing: if Philip Rivers does not win a division, or at least make a playoff berth or a playoff win, then he should retire. The Colts have a good offensive line. They have T.Y. Hilton. I'm sorry. Excuse me. They have T.Y. Hilton, and they have Michael Pittman. So I see Philip Rivers, well, with the right weapons and the right offensive line, and they have Marlon Mack, and their defense is very confident. And them at 6 is a reasonable expectation. They'll get 10 wins at best. They could probably go 9-7, and that's more reasonable. Now let's get to Denver. Denver had a quarterback issue. I believe they might have found their quarterback that they've been looking for ever since Peyton Manning. Drew Luck has the potential to be a Super Bowl winner, in my opinion. But my thing is, with Drew Luck, will John Elway find a way to ruin it up? He has with multiple players, with Case Keenum and Brock Osweiler. But I'm putting that very clear that Denver might as well make the postseason. I see them as a sleeper, and they'll still lose to the Kansas City Chiefs because the Kansas City Chiefs they will play at Arrowhead, and I have a feeling that it's a reasonable expectation for them to get blown out. I think Drew Luck's a good quarterback. I think he has the potential to become. I think he has the potential rivalry to be with Patrick Mahomes for like the next couple years they have with each other. But that's it for my predictions. I know I'm going to get hate for this, but look, I stand by from what I said. I believe these teams will make the postseason. If you want, just make your own list and explain it. Tell me how the Packers will make the playoffs. Just tell me. Tell me how you think the Chiefs will get a first round bye. Tell me how you think the Colts will not make the playoffs. Tell me how the Texans will make the playoffs. Tell me how the Titans will not win the division. Tell me how the Bills will be divisional winners. I said that you're only getting wins. Like, they'll be lucky if they get like 10 wins because of their defense, because Buffalo has a very good defense. And tell me how the Eagles will make the playoffs. Please tell me. I really do. I really do mean it. But that's it. That's all. Subscribe and bear down always. An FTB.